You know, something huge is happening in the world of travel, and it's all being driven by one country, India. Millions of Indian tourists are heading out and exploring the globe like never before, and honestly, the numbers behind this whole boom are just staggering. So today, we're going to break down what's fueling this trend and what it really means for everyone. Let's get into it.
Okay, just to give you a sense of the scale here, let's start with right now, today. In 2024, outbound tourism from India is already an industry with almost $19 billion. That is a massive number by any standard. But what's really incredible is that this is just the beginning. Because get this, over the next 10 years, that market is projected to literally triple, rocketing to over $55 billion by 2034. That's not just steady growth, that's a seismic shift that's completely reshaping global tourism. So, how on earth does a market just triple in a decade? Well, the engine behind that incredible jump is this number right here, an 11.4% compound annual growth rate. That means we're not just talking about 1 or 2 good years, we're talking about explosive, sustained expansion year after year for a whole decade. And of course, this leads to the big question, right? A boom this big doesn't just happen by accident. What exactly is the engine behind these absolutely incredible numbers? Well, the report we're looking at points to 9 key drivers that are basically creating a perfect storm for this travel boom. So let's break down these forces that are changing how and why Indians are exploring the world. I know, this looks like a long list, but you can really boil it down to 3 main stories. First, you've got the economic story. Rising incomes mean more people simply have the money to travel. Then there's the tech story. Better flight connections and super easy online booking have made the world feel a lot smaller and more accessible. And finally, there's this huge cultural shift, driven a lot by social media, where people want new experiences, not just things. It's a perfect storm of more money, easier access, and a growing desire to see the world. So, those are the big forces pushing this boom forward. But how does that actually translate into decisions people make? Let's take a look at how Indian travelers are booking their trips and what they're looking for when they get there. Now, this chart is absolutely crucial. Almost half of all international trips are now booked online. The rise of smartphones and the internet has put the power of a travel agent right into people's hands, letting them research, compare, and book their entire journey all on their own. But here's a really fascinating contrast. Even with the rise of doing it all yourself online, package tours are still dominant, making up nearly 40% of the market. This tells us that while people love the power that tech gives them, there's still a huge demand for the convenience and security of having your flights, hotels, and activities all bundled together for you. And what people do when they travel is changing too. It's not just about seeing the famous sights anymore. We're seeing a huge rise in solo travel, especially with younger generations. There's a massive appetite for adventure. Think trekking, safaris, and a growing search for wellness at yoga retreats and spas. And more, food itself is becoming the destination. But hey, no forecast is ever a sure thing. While that 11.4% growth rate is the big headline number, the report also offers a more cautious view. So is this explosive growth actually guaranteed? Let's look at some of the potential turbulence ahead. The future of this market could really follow 2 very different paths. The optimistic forecast sees that explosive 11.4% growth just keep on going. But a more modest forecast, well, it puts the number at 4.2%. Still healthy growth for sure, but a fundamentally different story. So what could pump the brakes on all this growth? The report points to a few key headwinds. You know, the obvious things, like a big economic recession that hits people's spending money, or political instability in popular destinations. But it's also the practical hurdles, like complex visa rules or just poor infrastructure, that can be enough to make travelers think twice. These are the real-world risks that could slow the boom.
Okay, so pulling all of this together, what does this trend really mean for the bigger picture? Let's zoom out and look at the future that all this data is pointing towards.
This isn't just a trend that's happening in a vacuum. It's a fiercely competitive market. You've got major players like Thomas Cook, Kasari, and SOTC all innovating like crazy to capture this demand. They're developing everything from customized trips to all-inclusive luxury packages, constantly adapting to what the Indian traveler wants.
And all this competition is only going to accelerate more innovation. And that brings us to our final thought. This isn't just a story about numbers or market trends. It's really about a fundamental shift in global movement and culture. The rise of the Indian international traveler is going to have a profound impact on destinations all over the world. So we'll leave you with this question. As millions more Indian tourists explore the globe, how will the world change to welcome them?